Hi, this is Corey Reeser, and I am doing this screencast on my Google Earth final project for Education 476. So I first wanted to start off by taking the viewer to my hometown of Atascadero, California, and pretty much my hometown population of about 27,000. Very different from the area in which I am currently teaching. It's a much more rural area with about a white population of 95%. So the demographics are much different. There's a much greater emphasis primarily on the environment and environmental consciousness as well. So that's one thing that, or there's just a couple of things that differ dramatically from my hometown and my high school of Chaffee. So taking you to Chaffee High School, you can see how long of a drive that is and how far away or removed from my hometown environment I really am. So Chaffee High School, to start things off, I've done all my observation hours at Chaffee High School, and pretty much, so here's a little overlay. Pretty much all of my observation hours for fall and spring semester of the 2015-2016 school year have been done at this location. The school has been around for nearly 100 years. One thing I thought was interesting, it was first established in 1885 as the Chaffee College of Agriculture, and then it was transferred over to Chaffee Joint Union School District in the 1960s as a full-time high school. Now here's a picture. I'm a swim coach, so this pool is still there. It was they actually used this pool for the Olympic swimming trials in the 1930s, and this was a part of the New Deal era construction from the Roosevelt administration. And as you can see, here are the historical pictures of Chaffee College. If you look right here, this building is now the PE and athletic department building. And then this building right here, this is where the swimming facility still is located. And then this building right here is now Mercer Music Hall. So that's Chaffee High School, where I've done all my observation hours. Then taking you to Vina Danks Middle School. So, taking you back down to Vina Danks Middle School, which is actually right across the street from Chaffee High School. I put this high school on, or this middle school on there because a lot of, or actually every single student who attends this middle school will eventually attend Chaffee High School. So it was important for me to kind of get an understanding of the demographics and location of this middle school, being that many of my students attended grades 6 through 8 at this facility. Next up is Hawthorne Elementary School. Hawthorne Elementary is about a block and a half away, and I chose this elementary school because they do a lot of activities at Chaffee High School. They usually do their daily walk field trips to see drama productions. If there are activity days that involve, future, college career days or just career days in general, some of the students from this elementary school will be brought to the high school in order to get their feet wet regarding high school and what being a high schooler is actually like. So it's basically just showing them, hey, this may seem like a long way off, but you will be here, and this is what you can expect once you get to Chaffee High School. Next up is Stater Brothers Markets. I chose Stater Brothers Markets at this location on Holt in San Antonio because two of my students actually work at this location. So I constantly make an effort to try and pop my head in, usually on the weekends because that's when my students are actually working, just to kind of see how they're doing and to show my face in the community. And another benefit is that when I do show my face in this specific grocery store, many of my students live in the local area and their families do all of their grocery shopping at this location. So I see a lot of my students or Chaffee High School students that I don't have directly in my classroom at this grocery store. Next up is Montclair Shopping Plaza. Now this is a popular location for my students, especially in the summertime, because a lot of my students don't have cars. So it's a pretty feasible and realistic location for them to hang out on a daily basis. Here's the picture of the complex. It is an indoor facility, so a lot of the students hang out at this location and at Ontario Mills, basically to cool off during this hot summer months. The Montclair Plaza also offers numerous employment opportunities for Chaffey High School students. I currently have one student working at Spencer Gifts, one student working at Cinnabon, and the other student working at Hollister. So this is pretty much a magnet for employing current Chaffey High School students or Chaffey High School students that are just graduating. So this is basically kind of like a buffer zone for them, and it also offers a place for social gathering. So next up is In-N-Out Burger, which I'm still glad to see is a popular spot. Basically, this is one reference point I can use because even though I grew up in a much different area under much different circumstances, me and my friends still went to In-N-Out Burger, and we still hung out at In-N-Out all the time. So this is a common area of reference that I can use with my with the students in my class. Instead of talking and using archaic references, this is a means of connection that I can use in the classroom, because even though I grew up in a much different circumstance, everyone eats and we all hang out at In-N-Out. So that's one common area that I have with the students in my classroom. Next up is the Ontario soccer field. This is a pretty important place for many of my students. Chaffey High School is predominantly Hispanic, so there are a lot of kids that play competitive soccer, and the soccer field is off the 60. I wasn't really aware of it before I actually started teaching at Chaffey and talking to my students, but it's pretty cool. There are 7 fields total, 2 practice fields, and they're used primarily on the weekends. If you go on the weekends, they're in heavy use all year round. And then you can also go to these soccer fields to hone in your skills. And a lot of my students, especially my seniors, when they're not playing high school soccer, they're usually at these fields playing some type of club ball. Last but not least is Kaiser Permanente, right across the street from the Ontario Soccer Complex. I chose this facility because one of my students ended up blowing his MCL and ACL ligaments out during the quarterfinals of the CIF quarterfinal soccer match, and he actually had his orthopedic procedure done at this facility to fix his knee. And what I actually found out was the majority of my students actually have Kaiser Permanente as their primary care insurer, which was kind of surprising to myself personally, because I kind of associated the demographics and socioeconomic status of many of the students with a healthcare insurer not as well known or affluent as Kaiser Permanente. So by basically asking, a series of questions to the student regarding his procedure, I was able to find out that the majority of my students actually do have access to very good healthcare, and that this facility is actually where the majority of them go for their doctor appointments and emergency visits when they are warranted. So this is basically the surrounding area that I chose for Chaffey High School. And this surrounding area has greatly influenced my method and understanding of instruction at Chaffey High School, because I took the time to understand the surrounding areas and basically use these surrounding areas to interject community knowledge and community references. So when I'm communicating content material to the students, I'm not going to be using vague and archaic references. I'll be able to point to this thing in the community that they are familiar with in order to build a bridge and draw that connection between the content material and a real life scenario. So that was my Google Earth final project, and I am Corey Reeser, and this is my screencast for EDU 476.